welcome to WION Live broadcast in New York City. We are at Hudson River Park, Pier 45 today. As usual, first we'll take a look at this hour's latest headlines. Chinese imports of Russian oil last month hit their highest level since Moscow's February 2022 invasion of Ukraine, as per customs data, as Beijing continues to offer an economic lifeline to an increasingly isolated Kremlin. Beijing places great emphasis on its relations with the European Union, says China's premier during his visit to Berlin. Germany's Scholz says Germany is seeking to build, quote, balanced trade relations with countries across Asia. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will meet Tesla chief Elon Musk. During his trip to the U.S., Musk says that he is serious about his plans to establish a manufacturing base in India. The French government would shut down an activist climate group over a series of recent demonstrations. The government has announced that NGO uprisings of the Earth Coalition will be banned for encouraging violence at protests. And a former world number 2, Annette Kontaveit, announces that Wimbledon will be her final tournament. The Estonian says it will be impossible to continue playing professionally due to a chronic back injury.
Win number 48 on the year.
Cette match Kontaveit. 2-1.
Okay, let's start you off in Ukraine, where missing arms shipments, broken down vehicles, and intra-governmental lawsuits. A new report paints a damning portrait of Kyiv's efforts to requisition enough military hardware as it aims to continue its counter-offensive going. A New York Times report states that in the rush to arm Ukraine, weapons are bought but not delivered or are too broken to use. Ukraine has paid contractors hundreds of millions of dollars for weapons that have not been delivered. Some of the much publicized arms donated by allies have been so worn out that they were deemed fit only to be cannibalized for spare parts. Ukrainian government documents show that as of 2022's end, Kyiv had paid arms suppliers over $800 million for contracts that went fully or partly unfulfilled. Meanwhile, NATO members who have sent billions of dollars worth of weapons and equipment into Ukraine to help it fight back against Russia. But the war has strained already depleted weapons stockpiles for many European countries. Germany's armed forces only have around 20,000 high-explosive artillery shells left. Citing confidential Defense Ministry papers, German media house has stated that the country's armed forces are running low on high-explosive artillery shells. Countries like Germany have rushed to send supplies of 155mm artillery rounds used by howitzers to Ukraine. And now Ukraine's European allies are facing a dilemma. Do they keep sending their stocks of weapons to Ukraine and potentially increase their own vulnerability to Russian attacks? On the other hand, if they hold back to what is left to protect their homeland, they risk the possibility that makes a Russian victory in Ukraine more likely. This situation has risen As for many European nations, military spending became a lower priority after the end of the Cold War, which weakened their defense industrial bases. U.S. defense companies also had a role as they moved to compete for European contracts. German military reportedly needs to build up an inventory of some 30,000 shells by 2031 to comply with NATO's goals to have enough artillery to withstand a 30-day combat. And unlike European leaders, Russia's President Vladimir Putin can order weapon makers to go into 24 hours a day production. Moscow has directed some troops to factories instead of the front lines. Russia has a track record of reconstituting its military every few years, like moves against Georgia in 2008 and the 2014 annexation of the Crimean Peninsula. Okay, for more on this, we are being joined by John Earth from Washington, D.C. He is a senior policy director for the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation in Washington. The situation with arms to Ukraine seems troubling, to say the least. What is going on?
What's going on is there is a war happening. And in war, by nature, things are chaotic and everything tends to go wrong. Nothing goes according to plan, and I think we're seeing some reflection of that. And it's obviously having an effect on the supplies of munitions to the armed forces of Ukraine and likely to the Russian side as well.
And moving forward, do you think that this will give Russia the upper hand, considering the fact that there is some problems with the delivery of weapons to Ukraine during its counteroffensive?
It's difficult to say. So much of what is being reported about this war is propaganda from both sides. And certainly Russia has an interest in making its armed forces appear to be stronger than they are. So I think you have to account for the influence of the propaganda aspect. But certainly it is an obstacle to Ukrainian hopes to regain their territory if they continue to have these kinds of supply problems. They need to have munitions, they need to have weaponry, they need to have artillery shells in order to conduct an offensive that would regain their territory.
Well, thank you so much for those comments and that perspective. John Earth joining us from Washington, D.C. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Thank you.
Before the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi emplaned for the United States this morning, he said the visit was an opportunity for India and America to enrich the relationship further. The U.S. President Joe Biden will host Prime Minister Modi for his first state visit. The trip makes Modi just the third world leader after France's Macron and South Korea's Yoon Suk Yeol to be invited by President Biden for a state visit. A roadmap for defense industrial cooperation is expected to be the key outcome of Modi's U.S. visit. Amid China's territorial ambitions, Washington is working to deepen ties with the world's largest democracy and seize deeper military-to-military and technology ties in the future. Here's what the Indian Foreign Secretary said.
The next key component, which will also be showcased prominently during the visit, is the bilateral defense cooperation. It has been a critical pillar of our engagement, and within that, a new element this year we expect during this visit we expect is the progress on defense industrial cooperation roadmap.
Before flying to the United States, the Indian Prime Minister gave an interview to the Wall Street Journal. Speaking on the Russia-Ukraine war, Modi said that the world has full confidence that India's topmost priority is peace. He underlined that India is not neutral, but on the side of peace. On the India-China ties, Prime Minister Modi stated that peace and tranquility in the border areas are still essential. He said, and I quote, "India is fully prepared and committed to protect its sovereignty and dignity." The Indian Prime Minister's visit will begin in New York, where he will lead the celebrations of the International Day of Yoga at the United Nations headquarters on June 21st. Starting in 2014, the International Day of Yoga has become one of the major events in the annual calendar of activities at the United Nations. In New York, Prime Minister Modi will also interact with eminent personalities. Washington, D.C. will roll out the red carpet on June 22nd, when Joe Biden hosts Prime Minister Modi. U.S. President will hold bilateral talks with the Indian Prime Minister. The Biden administration is all set to sign a deal that would allow U.S.-based General Electric to produce engines for military aircraft on Indian soil. While India can manufacture jets domestically, it is keen to get the technical know-how to make aircraft engines. India intends to produce more than 350 fighter jets for its Air Force and Navy over the next 2 decades, which could be powered by the General Electric engine 414. Top lawmakers in the United States have invited Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address the U.S. Congress when he visits the capital of the world's largest economy. The address to the U.S. Congress on Thursday will be a second for the Prime Minister. On June 23rd, the Indian Prime Minister will be hosted by U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris and Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. He will also interact with top chief executives and community leaders. Here's what the chairperson of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee said.
I wish him well in his visit to Washington. From our trade and economic engagement to our security cooperation to our people-to-people ties, the India-U.S. relationship is critically important. We have made considerable strides in recent years, and I hope for even more in the future.
Last May, Biden and Prime Minister Modi announced a bilateral initiative on critical and emerging technology dubbed as ICET. The two leaders directed their governments to work together on advanced tech from AI to semiconductor chips and quantum computing, especially in defense.
एक कंस्ट्रक्टिव एजेंडा लेकर चल रहा है. इससे
as well. Congratulations on your election. As I told you when you won, I called you that we greatly appreciate your commitment of being here so soon after.
Well, India is reportedly set to buy U.S.-made armed Sea Guardian drones. The deal comes days ahead of Prime Minister Modi's visit to the United States. The U.S. had approved it over 2 years ago, but the Indian Defense Ministry had been reviewing the deal. The acquisition worth $3 billion, drones through U.S. foreign military sales or the government-to-government route will get a green light during Prime Minister Modi's U.S. visit. The Prime Minister is expected to announce the deal after meeting President Biden. India's acquisition of 31 high-altitude, long-endurance drones from U.S. will be a phased exercise involving initial observation of technology. This is according to people familiar with the matter. The transfer of drones The transfer of drones will make India the first non-NATO state to receive armed UAVs. The MQB Sea Guardian drones are advanced unmanned armed systems. They are also known as Predator B. They are a variant of the MQ Reaper, the drone famously used by the U.S. to kill al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri. Manufactured by General Atomics, the Sea Guardians are maritime-focused drones. They can operate over 40,000 feet and can carry loads of around 5,670 kilograms with an endurance time of over 30 hours. These drones can be used for surveillance and reconnaissance in all types of weather. It is also equipped with anti-submarine warfare and airborne mine countermeasures. Although, according to sources, the Modi government will not buy all the drones and the weapons off the shelf. With the deal, we'll have an element of localization in the package through which India-built munition can also be fitted on the drones. Well, for more on this, we are joined by WION Sabal from New York. He'll be talking about this deal that's really making headlines. Sidan, good to talk to you. What can you tell us?
Well, Susan, first let me tell you where I'm exactly standing. I'm standing in front of Indian Prime Minister's hotel. He is due to arrive here shortly in a few hours from now. And security, of course, has been increased. Just a few minutes ago, there was a waiting here and perhaps has left to airport now. But now replying to your question, this visit will see significant announcements, especially when it comes to defense deals. When we know that when it comes to Predator drone deal, the GE manufacturing of jet engines, these are the key issues that are expected to top the agenda. But essentially, both India and the United States are looking forward to co-production, something that the officials of both sides have reaffirmed several times. And it's just not defense, but critical technology as well. That will be a key focus area during this visit. In fact, ahead of the visit, we saw both the NSA's meeting in Delhi and earlier in January meeting in Washington, taking a lead on critical technology initiative, which has several pillars, including quantum and artificial intelligence. So it looks like both the sides are looking forward to much larger things for convergences from technology to defense to people relationship. And in next few days and perhaps weeks as well, we will see a manifestation of that with the leaders meeting in Washington. And here, of course, the Indian Prime Minister meeting with top officials, essentially in terms of his engagement with the diaspora, but also with CEOs. Remember, he's going to meet Elon Musk in few hours from now here in New York, and this will be his first meeting with Elon Musk, who is the chief tweet and also the CEO of Tesla. Now, Elon Musk is keen base in India, but he's hoping to get some kind of relaxation from the Indian government. It's given that these will be part of the conversation, but what will be the sense we can only get to know after the meet is over. We do expect he will be meeting and addressing the media after his meeting with the Indian Prime Minister. So what Elon Musk will be saying is something that will be the big focus.
All right, WION's principal diplomatic correspondent Sidan Sabal joining us from outside of Prime Minister Modi's hotel, which he will be shortly arriving here in New York. Sidan, thank you for that analysis and all those updates. And of course, we'll talk to you very soon. Okay, moving on. Cuba, a Caribbean nation located in the backyard of the United States, has always been a bone of contention between the United States and Russia. From a Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962 to the current simmering issues of security around the communist island. In the latest, a report by the Wall Street Journal claimed that China and Cuba are negotiating to establish a new joint military training facility on the island. This has sparked concern in the Oval Office, as this would mean a stationing of Chinese troops just over 160 kilometers off the Florida coast. The report cited current and former U.S. officials. Meanwhile, Beijing has denied any such claims and further said that it's not aware of any such development.
I'm not aware of the situation you've mentioned. We hope that the parties concerned will put more effort into things that are conducive to enhancing mutual trust and the peaceful and the stable development of the region.
This comes at a time when U.S. and China are working to mend their relations. China's aggressive maneuvering in South China Sea and around Taiwan Strait are major areas of concern for Washington. Just 1 year after Top Gun Maverick, Tom Cruise once again walked the red carpet for his upcoming Mission Impossible 7. The movie, which is called Dead Reckoning Part 1, had its world premiere in Rome. More details in our next report.
You know, this movie, it is an epic adventure. It's bigger than all the films. It has vivid characterizations. It has glorious, luxurious locations.
In Rome in particular, those cobblestones, they're very, very hard to drive on. And that really made the whole chase sequence here in Rome very, very challenging. And it's great to be back, and it's great for everybody to be in one piece.
It was a lot of fun. Got to drift through here and
That's all the time we have for WION Live broadcast here in New York City. Thank you so much for staying with us and watching. We were coming to you live from Hudson River Park, Pier 45. We'll see you tomorrow.